South Korea's financial authorities unveiled a detailed outline of its policy plans for 2024 on Thursday. Now, this year, it's all about easing financial burdens on people and firms rather than focusing on managing economic risks. Joining me is our economics correspondent, Hye-ryeon. Welcome, Hye-ryeon, and Happy New Year.
Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to you too.
All right, Hye-ryeon, first off, why and how the economic policies this year are different from the ones we had last year?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, the focus this year is on restoring people's livelihoods. And as there is a more positive economic landscape this year, the government can look into sustainable growth. Here's what Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok had to say about the country's economic outlook.
With the recovery of global trade and the semiconductor industry, the economy is forecast to grow 2.2%, while the inflation rate is predicted to fall to 2.6%.
And so there are 4 different key areas that the government has outlined for policy direction this year: restoring people's livelihoods, managing potential risks, creating a dynamic economic environment, and strengthening economic policies for future generations.
For better understanding, Hye-ryeon, do give us an example of a policy being implemented to actually help lower costs.
Well, last year there was a surge in prices of fresh produce due to extreme weather conditions. So this year the government is removing or lowering tariffs for a record number of fruits, 21 different types. The goal is to import 300,000 tons of fruit in the first half of the year, and experts are saying that this is a more sustainable and effective method of lowering prices compared to just holding temporary sales as they did last year. Also, it's not just fruit that they'll be importing, with little to no import tariffs, but vegetables and meat too.
Okay, so while those are policies for reducing prices for people in everyday life, what other policies are there to help business owners also suffering from high prices and also interest rates?
So a group that was particularly affected by these economic conditions last year was small business owners. And as a result, the government has come up with a triple package of support for the first year of 2024. This includes reducing energy bills for more than 1 million small businesses, lowering loan interest rates, and expanding tax benefits. Lowering interest rates for loans has been a classic go-to measure to help SMEs, so it's important that viable businesses are able to receive these benefits.
Other than those measures you've mentioned so far, how else is the government planning to help firms also deal with costs, say, of intermediate materials?
Well, towards the end of last year, there was a disruption in the supply of urea solution from China, which really highlighted the need to secure stable supply chains. And not just that, there is also a need to diversify and keep track of sources of intermediate materials. And here's what an expert said about why the latter option needs to be taken up by the government.
Korean firms have a choice. They can try to diversify their sources of intermediate goods, but diversifying is expensive, and companies are not going to be very willing to have extra costs just to diversify.
So this year, the government is making a database of 200 key items crucial for economic security and establishing a fund of around 1 trillion Korean won, or around $760 million to boost domestic production capabilities of these listed items. They will also be establishing a committee dedicated to resolving supply chain issues, as well as an emergency response team to respond to situations that arise as quickly as possible.
Well, speaking of the issues that affected the country last year, we have to talk about the country's low birth rates. What policies are there to actually address the lingering issue?
Well, that's a good question, given that the country has been suffering from a natural population decline for the past 4 years. And here's what an expert said about the policy direction that's needed to change social stigmas contributing to this trend.
Career breaks for mothers are a serious issue, and the government needs to promote an environment where the workplace encourages the whole family to become involved in raising a child.
And that's what the government will be aiming to do this year by extending the period of parental leave for both parents from 12 months to 18 months. Another initiative they're hoping to implement for firms is integrating more flexible working hours as part of a company's ESG goals for working parents.
And we all know how crucial it is to plan for a future. So what about research and development for future industries?
Well, another new policy that they're introducing this year is designed to boost R&D. For the first time ever, the government will be temporarily increasing tax cuts by 10% for firms increasing R&D investment. So large companies that would have received tax credits of up to 25% of the increment investments for R&D will now receive 35% of the amount. So let me give you an example. So if a firm invested around $5,000 in R&D every year but decided to invest another $400 this year, they would be eligible to receive up to $140 worth of tax credits. The government is also fostering future industries such as semiconductors, batteries, and robots by setting up a budget of 52 trillion won, or around $39.5 billion, worth of financing, the largest ever amount for facility investment.
Well, I'm looking forward to see how these policies are unfolding in the days to come. Thank you for the wrap-up, Hye-ryeon, today.
Thank you for having me.